There are some countries that have a lot of land. When we look at their modern borders, they're massive, but also kind of small. So let's look even bigger and smaller. Let's take a look at every country that has ever existed and find out which ones controlled the most land at their peak. Welcome to my channel. First up, the biggest empire in history, the British Empire. At its greatest extent, the British Empire controlled over 35 million square kilometers, almost a quarter of all the land on Earth. The second largest colonial empire was the French colonial empire, which at its peak controlled around 12 million square kilometers. And coming in third is the massive Eurasian land-based Russian Empire and later Soviet Union, which controlled around 22 million square kilometers. Next, the United States. Today, it controls about 9.8 million square kilometers. But with the additional territories it has occupied throughout its history, including the Philippines, Japan, parts of Germany, the U.S. has actually controlled around 16.5 million square kilometers at its peak. The fourth largest empire was the Mongol Empire, which at one point controlled the largest contiguous or connected piece of land of any empire in history. Spanning from Eastern Europe to the Sea of Japan. The sixth largest empire was the Ottoman Empire, which lasted for over 600 years and at one point controlled territory in 3 continents. Finally, the Spanish Empire was absolutely massive, controlling pretty much all of the land in the Americas at one point. And finally, Imperial Japan controlled a lot of East Asia, including large parts of China, Korea, and Southeast Asia during World War II. Now, here are some more honorable mentions. The Qing dynasty of China controlled around 7.5 million square kilometers, while the Tang dynasty controlled around 5.5 million square kilometers. The Russian Empire, at its greatest extent under Catherine the Great, controlled around 20 million square kilometers. And the Third Reich came pretty close to controlling all of Europe at one point, but due to the fact that they never really occupied Britain, they come in at number 10 on this list. Now, you might be wondering, what about the modern Russian Federation? Well, it comes in at number 47 on this list, with 1.6 million square kilometers. And yeah, you'd probably expect modern-day China to be much higher on this list, but its modern borders were only established in the 1940s, so it's number 22 with 9.6 million square kilometers. Now, obviously, these numbers are estimates, and there's a lot of room for interpretation. How do we define the borders of an empire? Do we include all the land it directly controlled, or only the land it ruled over? Do we count the overseas territories of modern countries such as the Philippines and Guam as part of the U.S.'s total territory? Do we count the land occupied during World War II? It's hard to say exactly which territories a country controlled at its peak, especially if there's no clear border demarcating the edges of their empire. In the case of the Mongol Empire, we can easily trace out the borders of their contiguous land holdings. In the case of the British Empire, it's much more difficult because they controlled so much land through a combination of direct rule, indirect rule, and also through the influence they had over other countries. This is why I've chosen to focus on the maximum territorial extent of these countries rather than trying to calculate their total land area controlled, which would make the videos way too long. Still, I think it's interesting to see how much land some of these countries have controlled at their peak. It's a really quick way to get a sense of just how much power they wielded at the time. And it's a stark reminder of how quickly global power structures can change. Just think about how different the world would look today if the Mongols had managed to conquer the Middle East and India as well, or if the Inca Empire had managed to defeat the Spanish conquistadors. That's it for me today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.